Old man! Old man whose knees are hurting! Old man who lacks the core strength to climb rope and walk slippery rocks. Old man. Hi, this is the young man of Minnesota. Clearly, I just listened to your video. Your 360 degree video. 360 degrees of why my body can't traipse around whales like I'm 22 anymore. Yeah, I know all about that. I just got finished with a swim race yesterday, angel swimming this morning, and 18 holes of golf. Oddly, my right knee was killing me. I could barely walk up the stairs. So I figured I'd give you a rundown of the last 3 days. Because they were really busy. I'm going to do some dishes too here while I'm doing that, if that's okay. And I know it is because I'm making the video and I say it's okay. I have kettle's whistling. I have no video or pictures from the last 2 days. So you just have to listen to me talk while my face zooms in and out like this. Hello. Okay, no, really. So yesterday was Big Swell Swim in Baraboo, Devil's Lake, Wisconsin. I think, if you had a chance, if we have a chance when you're here in July to go over there, it's less than a 2-hour drive and do some day hiking. I think you would really, really enjoy it. It's beautiful. And then I could even take you for a swim after. I think you would really like that. But of course, we've done Big Swell several times. The water this year was the coldest it's ever been for this race. Now, it's also a month earlier than it usually is. The water was 65 degrees. Of course, I was in the non-wetsuit division, and Todd and I were the only ones that went over because today was Trinona. A lot of people didn't want to go because they wanted to save themselves for Trinona. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so Todd and I went. Todd did the 2.4 mile wetsuit swim. And hold on, I'm making some tea. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so the water was 65. It was cloudy, so you didn't get any ambient sun, no sun on your back while you were swimming. And, but there was no wind to speak of, a little bit of wind, a little bit of chop, but not bad. So I took off with the first wave. They call them elite swimmers, but I don't know. I didn't feel very elite. I felt really strong. I think all the hard work I've been doing in the pool with Lucas has really paid off. So as we were, the course is set up as a triangle with 0.4 mile sides. And it's more like an equilateral triangle, right? So no turn is 90 degrees. It's more than 90 degrees, right? Less than 90 degrees. Less than 90 degrees. More than 90 degrees. Anyway, you know what I mean. So we got through. I got that first leg, of course, was crowded. I mean, just people all over the place. But I felt like I didn't feel like I was breathing harder than I should, which was great. And it's really easy to go out too fast on races like that. And I didn't warm up at all because honestly, the water was cold. I didn't want to get in. But there was this one guy who I figured he looked maybe, as near as I could tell while swimming, maybe mid-30s. I turned out to be 42. His name was Trey. And no, he didn't have a tattoo. So we got around that first turn buoy, the first, big corner buoy. That's first leg. So we have essentially a 6-leg race, right? On, going around this triangle twice. So the second leg, we pretty much were side by side. And then he pulled a little bit ahead. I thought, well, that's fine. I'll just drop in behind him because he was swimming Not quite the pace I wanted. I thought I could swim just a touch faster, but that was fine. My goal was to break an hour. So by the time we got to the second turn buoy to the third leg, like I said, I dropped in behind him and I drafted him. Every time I recovered my stroke and really stretched, I almost touched his feet. In fact, I did touch his toes several times. So I did that for legs 4 and then 5. And then when we got to the turn buoy at, at 3 and 4, 1, 2, legs 3 and 4 is when I drafted. When we got to the turn buoy to go to the 5th leg, I lost sight. I went around the corner and I lost sight of him. Now I hadn't been sighting at all the last 2 legs, 3 and 4, because he seemed to be swimming straight enough. All the intermediate buoys, we were right on them, so I knew he was going straight, so I wasn't worried about that. So when we got to that turn to go to the 5th leg, I lost him, and it's like I'm looking, I can't see the bubbles from his kick at all. I was like, where did he go? And as I turned to breathe left, I see him still going straight, like he thought there was another buoy off in the distance somewhere. So he, and I stopped and I popped up and there was a kayaker nearby and I yelled, "Hey, go get that guy and tell him he's going the wrong way." And at that point he popped up. I don't think he heard me, but he popped up and realized, oh my God, where am I going? And he ended up, and so at that point I knew he was going to get back on track. So I took off. I felt like I tried to pick my pace up a little bit for the next 2 legs. And as I got in and stood up and started running, I see someone else running off to my right, and I just barely beat him across the finish line. I mean, I say barely, like a 1/10 of a second barely. It turns out to be this guy who had been swimming along, and I was actually able to go over and talk to him. And he was a super nice guy from Appleton, Wisconsin. He and his girlfriend did the 1.2 mile race. They're both triathletes training for Ironman. And anyway, it was good. I came in at like 58:45, and I took 5th overall, like over everybody in the race. There was a woman in her 30s who finished 4th, 2 guys who finished 2nd and 3rd in their 30s, and a guy who was 25 who finished 1st. And the first place person was 54 minutes, maybe 53 minutes. I can't remember, one or the other. So anyway, I was really happy with that. It was a really good race. And then today was Trinona, and I got to be an angel swimmer, which I think actually shepherd swimmer would be better. And so out on the first part of the race was the international, which is the 1 mile, 0.9 mile, 0.92 mile swim. And so I went out on one of the far turn buoys, and my job was just to hang out. I had my naranja boya from Mexico with me, clipped to my waist. So we went out. So I was out there just directing people, and it's really hard. It's hard to imagine that you wouldn't know where you're going, but when you're swimming that hard, it's easy to lose track. And the course wasn't marked as well, certainly as well as Big Swell Swim was. Plus, there was tons of weeds, so I was trying to get people out of those. So the penultimate swimmer who came through the international, he came past me. I directed him. He started going the right way. I turned. I was looking at the last guy to come through. I turned back, and this guy's now stuck off course way out in the middle of the weeds. And he looked like he was not doing well. So I went over. I swam over there. I swam in. It's like, "Are you okay?" It's like, no. I need some help. And then it's like literally his head goes under, comes back up, and I give him my buoy, and I just hang out with him. And I said, "You know what? Let's get you out of the weeds." So I just essentially kicked us out of the weeds, got us back into the clear water. He works at Mayo. He's from England. I think he's either Indian or Pakistani, and lives in Rochester. I didn't quite catch his name, mainly because I wasn't wearing hearing aids. I couldn't hear very well. But I got him breathing normally again, and then sent him off on his way, 100 yards later, he was off in the weeds again. But, a kayaker helped him at that point. So after the international race, we all swam back to the start line. Now, the position I was in was essentially the second, like one of the second major turns on the course for the international course. And in order to get there, like if you're going to go to the first one, if you're going to swim to the first buoy, you're going to swim this way, and then you turn a little bit, you go this way, second buoy, and then way down here, you go that way parallel with Highway 61. So from the first buoy to the second buoy to the start line is this line, and the first buoy to the start line is this line. So Steve, who organized this, warned me that you might not want to swim directly to the second buoy because there's a lot of weeds in there. And I thought, weed schmeeds, I can do it. It was so thick. I had a wetsuit on because I was going to be in the water for so long, not really moving much. I was actually almost called for help because it was that thick. It was tough. It was tough going, but I got through it. So I can only imagine for some of the less experienced, less confident, and certainly swimmers who were, swimming hard and were already gassed, getting stuck in that stuff would be really hard, really anxiety ridden. So anyway, at the end of the race, into the international, we swam back to the start line because now it was time for the sprint. The sprint was 400 yards. And it was a slightly, it's a course inside of the bigger course. So I got assigned to a person who, and again, I didn't have my hearing aid, so this was really tough. I mean, I was catching most of everything, but not quite everything. I got assigned to a person whose name was Allie or Allison. Turns out she's Mexico. She moved here 4 months ago. Her English was pretty good, but I got to speak Spanish. I actually got to say Naranja Boya because we were heading the inside, the sprint course, the turn buoys were orange. So I got to tell her we're going to the orange buoy, Naranja Boya, and spoke quite a bit of Spanish to her. But she swam pretty slow. I just sort of sidekicked just next to her. And I just literally stayed right there in her vision, right next to her. Whenever she slowed down to ask a question, I could answer it. I could help her calm. I could encourage her. She actually did great. She didn't, when she needed a kind of a break, instead of doing breaststroke, she would actually do dog paddle, but she was in a wetsuit and she didn't know how to do breaststroke. So, I just kept encouraging her. She was freaked out by the weeds. She asked if was anything going to bite her. It's like, no, there's nothing in here that's going to bite you. It's just the weeds tickle your legs. Other than that, it's fine. So I got her all the way around, actually, she had already hugged me at the start of the race. And her daughter was there. Her daughter was crying at the start of the race. Definitely a family affair. So we got her to just before the finish line. You can actually stand up in the water. She gives me another big hug, and she walks out to finish. And so I end up going back in, and I started swimming the course backwards just to see if anybody needed any help. So about halfway through the course, I come across this woman. I don't know, late 30s, early 40s, maybe. Really having a tough time. And so I swim over and she's like, I said, do you need to hold on to the buoy? She's like, yeah, I think I do. And she grabs it. She said, I don't know what's going on. I can't breathe. It's just, this is really hard. And I said, well, do you wear a wetsuit much? She's like, no, this is my first time. And I said, this is really common. They are so constricting. If you're not used to it, it feels like you can't breathe. Your body believes it can't breathe. And your respiration becomes really shallow and you get less oxygen. So I said, just hold on to this buoy. Let's work on taking some really deep breaths. Get your breathing under control and get some oxygen in your body. And I said, also, I'm going to go and I'm going to unzip your wetsuit a little bit because that will loosen it up. Give you a little bit more breathing room. So I went back and unzipped it about halfway. And then I said, well, let's swim. And when anytime you need a break, take a break. And she kept apologizing and kept, I think was almost embarrassed because she said, I just don't know why my body's doing this. And I tried to explain it to her, from a physiological perspective that it was very normal. that it was a reaction to the wetsuit, to the mind believing it can't breathe, and then the body goes into fight or flight, and that's hard when you're in the middle of water in weeds. So I got her all the way around, got to where she could stand up, big hug, and off she went to the finish line to start the next leg. I went back out and finally came up on the final sprint swimmer, and he was really struggling. And I mean, he was just, big head up the whole time, swimming like this, which is exhausting. And again, he probably had to stop and grab my buoy 10 times, in just the latter half. He did not give me a hug when we finished, but we got him through to the finish line and got him on his way. But it was really cool. It was actually the most fun I've ever had at Trinona. Like, I felt like I was doing the most important stuff to help people feel successful. I don't know how successful they felt, but they got through it. They lived. They didn't have to DNF, or they didn't have to get pulled into a boat and get hauled to shore. Which, if that happens, then you DNF. So, did not finish. Is what that means. So anyway, that's my swim weekend. Then I went out and played some golf this afternoon, late morning, early afternoon with Mike. I won 4 and 3, had a couple birdies. That was good. And my big frustration is the dryer. I'll tell you about that in the next video when I make that. That's my story. I'm swimming to it.